Constructing your life is about much more than just building a bank account. Each week, join real estate entrepreneur and mindset coach Austin Linney as he interviews guests who are constructing their dream lives and impacting the world around them on a daily basis. If you're an entrepreneur or wanting to start a business, or you just want to hear motivating stories of how others have overcome the odds, you are in the right place. And now for your host, Austin Linney.
Guys, welcome back to Construct Your Life. This is Austin Linney here. We have Michelle Anderson and Patrick Foster. How are y'all doing today?
Good. How are you?
We're doing great. Thank you.
Doing great, guys. Before we get started, I want to thank our sponsor, dreamchasers.com. Make sure you check them out over there, Adam Carswell. Guys, we have a real treat with you today. This couple combined have flipped over 3,000 houses. It's insane. I mean, they are just the flippers of the century. No, I'm just kidding. I thought about that right before we got started. So guys, I saw them on Instagram and I was like, gotta have you on. And people are like, why me? Like, why do you want to talk to me? And what you have to understand is people can touch that. They can grab that. They can go, oh yeah, I can get there. And so I like to get people on now, and then maybe a year from now we have them on again. And it's like, look what we did in a year. And so kind of let y'all like tell me your real estate journey, where you're at now and kind of your stories, and we'll get going from there.
Sure.
Okay. So I'll go first. I'm a full-time structural engineer, and that's what I do 9 to 5 every single day. And then just started doing real estate investing with Patrick, because I'll let him get into how he got into it, but he's a real estate agent. And we kind of jumped in. I jumped in with him and really no background, and along for the ride. Kind of, you hear about some people listening to podcasts for 2 years and reading a bunch of books before they get started. I read half of a book, and I think it was the book on flipping houses I read. Half of it would be kind of generous, and maybe a quarter of the way, and just said, yeah, let's do it. I kind of trusted him. He had a little bit more experience. I said, yeah, we'll learn as we go and figure it out. There's no better way to learn than on the job. So we kind of jumped in and started flipping our first 2 houses at the same time.
And so I grew up in a family, and I grew up working on houses, remodeling houses. I built custom homes, and then I gravitated into the union. I was a carpenter for a handful of years, and I started working for a commercial contractor. I'm going to make this kind of quick, but worked for a commercial contractor. And then I was working, 10, 12-hour days, 6 days a week. And I was like, you know what, like, why don't I take and put this time into myself and see what I can make of myself? End up quitting my full-time salaried position job, leaving my 4-bed, 2-bath house that I had renovated, and moved to Nashville about 2 years ago into a 2-bath apartment on the 3rd floor. Put all my money in one spot and bet on myself. So I got licensed in real estate, and I quickly gravitated towards the investor pool when I started working. I think I just spoke that language a little bit better. So I started working with an investor, pushing him deals. He would take the deals, flip them on the back, and sell them. So I'd find them, he'd fund them, flip them, and then I would list them. After doing that for about a year and a half of seeing it work, the prices are substantially different here than where I was from. So trying to hop in the game with that amount was just, it was different. I didn't really know how to do it. After doing it for about a year and a half, Michelle and I had talked about doing it. And I was, like I said, I'm pulling the trigger. I want to do this. End up hiring a real estate coach to get us over that ledge. And after reading books and having the background knowledge, plus her with her technical experience, her and I just kind of combined, had a real estate coach who put a bunch of offers in. Lost a lot of offers, which is good because the house we did get for our first one ended up being a great flip. And the house that we're actually sitting in now, it's funny, we came to this house to look at it to do a flip. And then as we're talking about what we wanted to do to it, we ended up deciding to keep it for ourselves. So then we found another house right down the road, half mile down the road, that we ended up flipping. And we were doing these 2 houses simultaneously. So we literally went from like 0 to 200, if you will, while working full-time jobs. she was working at home because of COVID, and I was working here and doing real estate out of my car on a hotspot for a better part of a year.
So couldn't even be bothered to finish the first book, which I love on so many levels, because this is what I talk about all the time. Here's what's interesting. This is a theory. It's not, screw that. It's not a theory. I've been proven right. Okay. I got 24-year-olds that I know that own 180 units, right? Like 23-year-olds that own that many units. And then you meet 40 and 50-year-olds that have been trying to learn for 4 or 5 years and they haven't done anything. They haven't bought anything. And what I believe is their long life and the amount of knowledge they have is actually the context that's holding them back.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And somebody that's newer that doesn't overanalyze everything, which is interesting because you're an engineer. So my business partners are civil engineers. So it's very odd that you would not finish the book. Trust me, it's a game with them on a whole nother level, which I love that part. But talk about, is it one of those things where, because this is a thing. You've got a job. It's not that you're upset about the job. It's just that ultimately you want to do something else with your time, right? And so it's like, okay, great. I might not know everything, but this is a way out. And I'm just gonna give it all I got, and we're gonna learn. And I truly believe that that's such a better way to live life than to have to know everything.
Right. And I guess it comes from, I think, trust, because I trusted him so much and his construction knowledge and his construction background. And then I trusted myself to be able to run numbers and create a spreadsheet for tracking expenses and really honing in on the numbers that the areas where I didn't know, you hear the phrase, you don't know what you don't know. If I had known everything that could go wrong, I probably would have been a little bit more scared, right? And if I had known everything that was going to go wrong, we had quite a lot of things pop up and speed bumps, it seemed like, every single week. I probably would have been a little bit more hesitant, but you don't know what you don't know. So I trusted him and his construction background, and then leaned on myself for the spreadsheet part of it and figured, you might as well. And we kind of jumped right in, and it helped having our coach in our ear telling us, said, like, this is a good telling, just reaffirming what we thought. This is a good property and this will make a good flip.
There's a thought out there that I've been sitting with for a while, and I love to read. I read a lot, and you wonder if the books aren't telling you anything new, but more importantly, confirming thoughts and ideas that you already have in your head. Meaning, like, that's what a coach does. That's what a book does. And so it's like, we have to be careful that we don't lean on that advice too much and need it to validate our own self. And so, that's what everybody says. Oh my God, what could go wrong? So let's talk about what went wrong, so we can kind of knock out some of these freak out moments that people think about when they think about taking that leap.
Yeah.
Well, so there's a point I'd like to touch on that I can get stuck in. I'm in sales, but also they talk about analysis paralysis. And you can get stuck in that wheel of learning so much, but never take that step where eventually you can read 100 books on flipping, and it's just somebody else saying the same thing differently. You're never going to know the things you need to know until you get into it. I mean, you can learn all the principles, but for instance, when we started flipping this house, even our contractor was like, wow, if what could have went wrong on this house. Like, he was even stressed out. He does this is his profession, like the flipping, the actual construction of the houses. So he was just like, wow, and you guys took it in great strides and persevered through it. So it was kind of entertaining. We got to a point where he called with some bad news, and he laughed, and then I laughed, and then we laughed, and then we're like, all right, let's just move on. It's not a shocker anymore,
Yeah.
Did y'all make money on the first one?
Yeah, a lot more than we actually ran our numbers and planned.
Okay, so I want to sit here for a minute, because this is the number one thing. Oh my God, stuff's going wrong, but yeah, you made money. So at the time, as you stand here and you sit here today, you were in it. That's totally different. Mm-hmm. What were the big things that come up that kind of freaked you out? Because I'm about to flip a house that we're literally rebuilding the thing. Mm-hmm. And don't get me wrong, I'm holy bananas balls, but the upside is amazing. And I have civil engineers working with me. So they're like, oh yeah, it's cool. We'll just do this and that. And I'm like, oh, so easy for y'all. But yet I'm the one running the project. So let's talk about what happened. That was like, oh my God, we didn't see that coming.
Yeah. So the first thing, I think, it just permits took a longer than we suspected, which took a couple of weeks longer to get started. We were held up. And then next thing that happened.
Straight out of the gate, it took 2.5 weeks to get the permits that the city required before we could get permits to start construction. Yeah. So straight out of the gate, our timeline, our schedule was already pushed back 2.5 weeks for start time. That's significant.
Was that the city of Nashville, or it was just how it was going to go down? Is there anything you could have done on the front end to help that, or no?
No, it was a right of way for a Nashville sidewalk plan that they're doing, citywide. So anytime you flip a property or build a new property, you either have to give them the rights to X amount of feet off the center of the street, or if you're doing a new build, you have to put the in. So it was just doing the logistics of getting that confirmed on paper, which with the city took 2.5 weeks.
Yeah. I said, we'll sign everything. We'll give you the land you want. Those are sidewalks, but let us get started working. I'll sign it. Just give me the papers.
No, we're ready to work. So, and then what else happened?
Next, our
a little internet issue, guys. So we're going to hope that we get them back here. They're a little frozen. The joys of doing Zoom. And maybe we'll get them back. Guys, I'm going to fill in the blanks here while we're waiting on them to come back in. They're going through all of the steps that it took to get their property right? And like, boom, right out of the gate, you have, okay, I was just filling in the blank. You keep going. I was just talking. I can fill the space. So, okay. So you said, what was the next thing?
Our electrician actually passed away on the day he was supposed to start work. And so obviously unfortunate for his family. And then it set us back. We had us back a few weeks trying to find another electrician that was within the same budget. We were getting the next quotes that we got were ranging from $2,000 to $12,000 for the same job. So we were trying to stay within scope and then stay within budget and try and get someone in there sooner. After that, our contractor's trailer got stolen with about $10,000 worth of tools in it. I think a week later, some people were over there working. They got robbed at gunpoint. After what next? We ordered trim, and then I think the week before our trim was supposed to get delivered, our warehouse burnt down where they stored all of that. So we had to.
So the trim's actually a funny one. I'm going to hop on this. So trim. We were back and forth on whether or not we should put all new trim and doors in the house or kind of match piecemeal the trim back together and keep the existing doors. We bounced around with the idea for 3 or 4 days, needing to pull the trigger. We finally pull the trigger. Our contractor puts in the order and he sends me a text the next day of this massive building on fire. And I said, what's that? He said, that's the warehouse with all of your trim and doors in it. So the whole warehouse burned down. Mm-hmm. Then comes in and half the plumbing that we were only going to replace, some of the cast iron ended up cracking. So we ended up having to replace all the plumbing. So that doubled our plumbing bid. Concrete comes in, and I think the contractors did this, so watch your numbers on this, but the concrete contractor shot us a low bid, and then materials end up being substantially more. Like they missed, and Herb and I both do construction, does a little bit more concrete than I do, but if you're pouring concrete every day, you don't miss an estimate by 5 to 7 yards, which is, it's about $1,000 worth of materials. So that one threw our budget off a little bit. Trying to think of what else happened other than getting robbed and
the house didn't burn down, did it?
No.
Like, I mean, that seems about, as I'm sitting here going through these things, I'm like, is there anything else that could happen?
That's why we stopped being surprised by things that came up. And in the beginning, I used to get kind of down, just like feeling like I was getting punched. And then I think you said something the day our contractor's trailer got stolen. Everything seemed like it was going wrong. And I was like, this sucks. And he was like, why? There's nothing we could do about it. We just have to figure out how to move forward. So that's kind of my mindset now. When something goes wrong, I give myself a minute to be like, okay, that sucks, and kind of be angry or upset for just a couple of minutes, and then try and shift my mindset to say, okay, what next? How do we fix it? What's the path forward?
Just adapt and overcome, basically.
Yeah.
Because the problem's still going to be there. And if you dwell on the problem, you're not going to get anywhere. You just need to find a path forward. So what's the quickest solution to the problem, and find your way out?
Yeah.
Your attitude to think that you can control things outside of your scope of control is the reason that you're still in the problem.
Right.
Like
exactly.
Ultimately, either you're a solution-based mindset or you're, and don't get me wrong, this is something I work on every day because I'm a highly emotional person. I have a lot of energy that can serve me in some areas, but not in a situation like that. Right. And so you get through all those things, you finish. I know this for a fact, because I flipped a house or two. There's a point. I'm dead serious when I say this, because we flipped a 1910 house. I call it the 12-step program with a fucking house. Look, true story. I lived across the street from this house, and for 6 weeks I didn't walk inside the fucking thing because I was so over it. We had to fire 3 contractors. We had to replace the front of the house, the kitchen. I mean, it was a fucking nightmare. All right. And long story short, when I found out we had to replace the kitchen now, the subflooring in the kitchen and the joist, which was not on the scope of work, which is a lot of work, I asked my father-in-law at the time and my ex-wife to go away. I said, go to Lowe's. I chugged a Red Bull. I turned on like Rage Against the Machine, and I demoed that whole motherfucker in like an hour. And I got it out of my system. I got it out of my system, right? But here's what did happen. And I'm sure the same thing happened with you. You get to a point in the investment where the sheetrock starts going on, and it like turns the corner, and then like boom, you're done. And it's like almost that mountaintop where you have to like get over that hump, and then like everything just starts running downhill, right? Yeah. And when you finally sold it, you got the offer and you sold it and you found out you made money. As you look at it now, you know, what would you tell that person before they got started? What would you tell those 2 people, like to give advice to people?
I would say one of the biggest things we learned was kind of, you have to adapt and things change, and you kind of have to roll with it and change with it, because if we stuck to our original scope and our original budget, we would have had a very different house. But we were the market was changing. We had the house for, I think, 5 months. So, today's market's changing quite rapidly. So we were always adjusting, and it's trying to hit a moving target. So the target's always moving. So we are always having to adjust our plan, and new comps were coming on the market. Houses were going for on the street for higher than we were expecting. So we said, well, now let's replace all the trim, because we're going to sell this at a higher price. So we're constantly looking at the market and constantly seeing what's going on in the area and what's going on at our house, and having to adjust what our original scope was to hit that moving target.
Mm-hmm. One of the things I would tell somebody in our position, or if it was us at the beginning, like, just start. Make sure your numbers work. Have some confidence with that. Find somebody that can help you with the numbers to make sure you're not going to lose it on the back end. But like, start. And 2, things will go wrong. And then 3rd, they will go wrong. And then number 4, it will be okay once they go wrong, because you just got to find a solution to the problem. And then 5, like, enjoy the process, because I think her and I learned more in the past 6 months flipping these 2 houses than we would have ever learned reading a book. It did benefit us that the market had changed and that we did make money. So we didn't do all this work for nothing, which was it was a blessing. But at the same time, if you can go through, and this is how I explained to somebody the other day, if you can go through an entire house, flip a house, you learn the process, you learn all the ins and outs. And let's say you make $10,000 and you don't make a lot of money on your first one. Okay. I spent 5 years in college and I came out, $80,000 in the hole. Or you could spend 6 months and come out $10,000 ahead with a boatload of knowledge that you can turn around and use on the next one to be more efficient.
I couldn't agree more. I lost $26,000 in a business that we started that was nationwide for Airbnb management. And it was a hard pill to swallow, but I never went to business school. And that opportunity has served me for the rest of my life and my new companies and who I am as a CEO and all those things. And people need to understand that sometimes the value of what you're getting has nothing to do with the back end profit. Exactly. Like I truly believe that you should look at your first couple properties as practice.
Yes.
It's school. And so all those things happen. You made a little money. And then because you're scary people, you decide to go after it again. So, so you said you were doing the other one at the same exact, so you're doing two at the same time?
Yes. And one of them, like her and I were doing, like I was over here gutting the house, like tearing it apart, ripping floors out. I had the whole front of the house missing while we had one going down the road. So it was kind of nice because they were simultaneous and we were learning. Now I come from a construction background, but she'd never done this, level of a reno. So, we're out shopping and walking her through a lot of things and like working together. That was a whole new obstacle.
Yeah, I can't wait to dig into that one. Yeah.
Plus finding out, with our house, it's not, hey, this looks nice. This is what's trendy now. It's more like what do we want? We are going to look at this every single day. How do we want the layout? So just trying to navigate through all of that.
And this house was supposed to be our first split. And we went under contract. And like you mentioned, we started looking at it and my eyes lit up and I was like, this is going to look beautiful. We'll tear out the ceiling. We'll vault it. We're going to do new kitchen, everything. It's a brand new house now. And he looked at me and he goes, we have to decide now if we're going to keep this house. We can't get to the end and decide if we want to keep it. We have to decide now. So that's what we said. Okay, let's do this one for ourselves.
Yeah. And, a lot of people would forego that and they would take the profit. But do you, as you're moving along in your life, something I realized the hard way because I didn't for a while, is that it's really important to have that home base and maybe the profits aren't as important because the energy, because we spend so much time at home, especially these days. And the energy to move forward in your business is going to be predicated off of having that routine and home base. Correct or no?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yes. Yeah.
And we were looking forward to getting out of the apartment and moving here and having a home base and something that we could just kind of like take a deep breath. We offloaded that property. We moved into this property. Like, take a deep breath, let the dust settle, take everything we've learned, reorganize, come up with a plan forward and try and move forward in a more systematic, efficient way rather than jumping in the water and learning how to swim, which given the situation at the time benefited us. But now we're taking a more strategic approach now that we kind of got the first two out of the way. Like if we can get through two of them at the same time, like we've got something going. It's just, let's figure out a path forward to make it more efficient, turning it into a business rather than just let's jump in and figure out if we like it hobby.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask a couple questions just because sometimes I gloss over a lot of details and I want to make sure I provide as much value. All right. How did you find the properties?
So I would source a lot of the properties I found. I sourced off the MLS, multiple listing service, straight out of the gate. Now that the market is where it's at, where there's no inventory, you almost have to have off-market properties before anybody knows there's an off-market property. So that's where we're trying to find deals now. And trying to find deals now, we had contracts on 4 properties, and people's expectations of prices are just so inflated that you can't make the numbers work without, increasing your risk. And we're just not willing to increase the risk for a small margin. We're fine where we're at. So we'd rather wait for one that we know is going to work than cut it too thin and almost potentially lose money. So to answer your question directly, MLS first. Now that the market has shifted, we've kind of had to change how we source properties.
And how would one go about sourcing off market properties?
Find some local wholesale dealers in your area. I've got a couple people that I've worked with, and just talking to people throughout the past couple of years. You can get on like Taylor networks, hop on investment pages like Facebook. They'll tell you where, who's doing wholesale deals, and wholesalers are always reaching out for buyers, and that's where you kind of hop on lists. And then you just eventually your inboxes will start getting flooded with deals, and then you build relationships. That's the biggest one. Is I built relationships. So now I have people that trust me, and they call me and say, hey, I have this deal. Nobody knows about it. So I kind of get first dibs. And then after, if I decide we want it, if we don't want it, if it can work, if it can't work, I either advise them on what to do with the property, or we take it and try and help move it for them. There's just a lot of avenues, and then throw in some like creative financing. You can get one property in, and then there's 15 different options of what you can do with it after you have it in your possession. But it's finding the deals that.
And I'll jump in and say specifically, so what we do is we tell everyone that we're flipping houses. So a lot of the off-market deals that he gets are from other agents, because he works with a lot of agents that they just want to sell homes that are pretty and up to date. And all the agents that he works with, they all know that he likes the ugly houses that need work. So they usually call him before they list them and say, hey, can you do anything with this? So he kind of built that reputation within his real estate brokerage. And then also we told our lawn guy that was cutting our grass, he does a lot of work in the neighborhood on other people's houses. We told him, hey, if you hear of anyone getting ready to sell or list a house that needs work, bring it to let us know, and we'll give you a referral fee. So I think a week later, he brought us a house. So it didn't end up working out for us, but you just start talking to people and putting it in people's ear that that's what you're looking for. And eventually people start bringing you deals.
Something that we did specifically, since we flipped the house that is in our neighborhood of our personal house, right when we were having our open house, rather than list, it's a crazy market. So people, you don't really need to do anything special. You just need to get it on the market quickly. But what we did is we held all offers. We listed on Thursday, held all offers until the next Monday. And we wrote up a flyer about who we are, what we do, and a picture of us. And we door knocked our entire neighborhood and introduced ourselves. And half of the people that came through our open house were just neighbors who wanted to meet us. And then at that point, we had an opening and neutral position to say, hey, like, here's our product, here's who we are, here's what we do. And then you get that personal touch rather than being a cold call or just a random person that sends a mailer. Like, now the neighborhood knows who we are and what we do. And I think we didn't get anything immediate, but I think down the road, that's going to pay dividends for us.
Yeah. And I've made it way less. I've made it way more obvious than that. When I travel, I just wear a shirt that says investor on it. I'm not joking. I was in Costa Rica a week ago, and this woman was like, "Are you an investor?" And I was like, "Damn right I am. Let's talk about some real estate." I got that from my mentor. Like, he's like, "Oh, I just wear it anytime I'm in an airport. Like, it just says investor on it." I'm like, "I love it. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, don't let the wholesalers have all the fun." So, how did you finance the buying the property and the flip?
Yeah, we use a private money loan.
So hard money or private money?
Private money.
Private money. And where did you find that lender?
Just some connections that we had down here in Nashville.
Okay. And they funded the purchase of the house, the construction, and then y'all refinanced out of that, or no? No,
we just, and then when we sold that, we did a kind of a splitting profits.
Oh, okay. Even better. I love that. So
kind of like a joint venture.
The joint venture, yeah.
Okay. And did y'all put up money in the deal or no?
No, it was all private money.
So
private money lender who funded it, funded the rehab, and then on the back end, we split the profit shares with them and then took our cut out of it.
Okay, guys, I'm going to say that really clear for everybody. Do you need money to buy real estate? No, you don't. That's my favorite question when I talk to a group. Guys, they just flipped that house. They made money. They didn't put any money in the deal. And they got a free education in the process. It's amazing. That is what it's all about. You don't need to wait till tomorrow. You don't need to wait till next week. You can do this. Go add value to somebody, find a deal, do it. and then jump into it and stop waiting around because they don't have any money in the deal. And right before we got on, he mentioned that he just sold his first house hack like 8 minutes ago, which is amazing. And so for anybody that doesn't understand how you got into the business, was your house hack, what did you do? Like, walk us through like that, kind of how you looked at that.
So I recently, within the past year, have found the term house hacking. So I'd like to say I was house hacking before house hacking was a thing, but maybe I wasn't, I don't know. So I had just moved back from Oregon. I lived out there for about a year. And when I got back, I was doing construction. We were building a bridge in Southern Illinois. I literally pulled all my money together to get an FHA loan. I put 3.5% down on a $51,000 house. Within the first 2 weeks, I walked in, I plopped a mattress down on the floor, and I started painting the house. 2 weeks later, I had the entire house painted. I got on Facebook, found some cheap furniture to put in the house, and I moved 2 of my friends in, okay? So they're automatically now paying me rent. So now I don't have a mortgage. I'm actually cash flowing 2 weeks into owning a property. Lived like that for about a year and a half, went through a couple different roommates. Turns out living with friends and having them pay you rent is a whole other demon within itself. Chasing them down to think they owe you or you owe them. Anyway, so during that process, I started realizing that I didn't really enjoy renting to friends. It was just more of a headache. So then I remodeled the basement, had a jackhammer up around the basement. It had water running in, put a drain tile in, put a whole new, it's basically a studio apartment down there. Moved downstairs. It had a separate entrance. And then I found out about Airbnb, turned the upstairs into an Airbnb. So I'd wake up, I'd come home on my lunches and I'd change all the beds, make all the beds, and then have new guests come in. I did that for about a year and a half. Then when I moved to Nashville, I moved a property manager in the basement, let her live there for free while she managed the Airbnb upstairs. That ended up not working out. So then I opened the upstairs and downstairs at the same time and rented both of them out separately. So really I was hitting, and when COVID hit, I think my bookings went up to 198% on the house, some of my biggest margins to date. And so I rode that train for years, or it was probably about a year and a half, 2 years of management. And then the market was hot in a smaller town. So I decided, hey, it's time to get out. So from the start, I didn't have a mortgage because I cash flowed. Every investment I put in the house, I ended up making back from Airbnb and my rentals. And then I turned around and sold it 6 years later, as of 8 minutes ago, and ended up making a net profit on it. So yeah, it was pretty.
I love everything. I love everything about y'all. This is fucking awesome. Like it's like I'm sitting here and I'm doing the numbers in my head. Like I'm like, okay, like he lived in that for free. He was making money the whole time. Like they were in that flip for free. Like, have you even put any of your own money in anything? Like, is it just like, I mean, it's awesome. Like this is what it's about, right? And I'm just curious, like, you know, you're starting to get a taste for it. Like I imagine Steam's picking up. Where do you see the next, let's just say the next 2-3 years of your life? Like, where would you like to get to? What do you see as like something? Because like a lot of people get in these investments and maybe like the long-term plan isn't the flip for the next 20 years, but it's good for now because it makes some money. Like what's the long-term vision?
So you pretty much started out this podcast with the long-term vision, like 30,000 properties flipped, multi-million-dollar profits.
No, actually, you know what? It's funny enough. The podcast started a year ago. It's Monday. It's going to be a year date. And I had no idea what I was doing. Now I have 2 podcasts. I don't even know what's going on anymore. I just keep hitting record. It's probably the same thing for y'all. Yeah.
Realistically, we'll probably just keep flipping for now. We've started looking into getting a couple of rentals. Patrick had a few off-market deals last week that we looked at, and the numbers just didn't work for us. So we wholesaled them. And those are deals that he got from, like I mentioned, other agents.
So wait, hold on. You're wholesaling too?
So when
Gosh.
when I started.
So wait, hold on. You're making money again without putting any money in. God, this is amazing. All right. Tell me what's up.
No,
Say that again. You cut out for a second.
I said, now you're making money again without putting money in a deal. I mean, this is great.
Right. So whenever I started out, I was working with an investor and we were putting 5 to 10 deals under contract a week. Right. And half the time he would only take one, maybe two. All right. And then I was like, you know what? I'm putting a lot of work, a lot of negotiation into these deals. So I was like, I need to find a way when a property comes in to have multiple exit strategies with it and exhaust every option so that I feel satisfied that like, hey, I tried everything for this property and it just couldn't sell at that price or whatever. So I found a way to either he's going to keep it or I can push it out to somebody else, or we're going to keep it, or we're going to keep and hold it, or we're going to flip it, or I'm going to wholesale it out to somebody, and try and make some kind of money on every deal if possible.
Yeah,
and help people out in the long term too. Because I've got an agent who just came to me with a couple deals. They wanted to keep it private. They wanted to keep it quiet. They had tenants in place, but she knew that I could probably move them quickly and discreetly. And here it is a week later, and they've sold, and everything was kosher and quiet. It didn't get put on the market. We didn't have thousands of people running through the houses. Mm-hmm. The tenants were still happy. It kept the relationship. So it's not always about the money, but the money is a benefit. Like I was able to help an agent get through a situation that they would have never been able to sell the houses in another way at this moment with the tenants in place and how the sellers wanted to deal with it. So it was just nice to be able to help her and, benefit on the back end as well.
Oh, for sure. So you're flipping, that's where you see it for now. Is there anything that intrigues you out there in the asset class? Like does construction, like new construction intrigue you? Like does like multiple Airbnbs, like you played the Airbnb game a little bit, like kind of like, I'm just curious.
So realistically, like we kind of like to dabble in new construction if the opportunity presents itself. Right now, we're probably mainly focusing on flipping and then possibly doing the BRRRR method and grabbing a couple of rentals and holding on to those. But a term I learned a long time ago, it was like slow, you go, fast, you never last. Now, depending on who you are and the capital you have, you can move at different speeds. But I think if we set like a decent goal of like, hey, let's flip 2 houses and pick up 2 per year. Well, if you do that compounded in the next 10 years, we're going to be sitting pretty. You don't have to hit it and try and do it all at once. Like you can just do a little bit over time and then it compounds and you get the results from there. So to answer your question directly, flipping, trying to pick up a couple rentals and possibly new construction. As far as Airbnb goes, I'm okay not touching Airbnb for a while. That required a lot of management on my end for not a lot of return, but it taught me how to run a business and manage people, and I can be in another state and make money while I was sleeping, which I really like that. So if we did hop into that, it would be possibly more of a personal, as we had talked about buying, hey, this is where we would like to vacation at. Let's buy a rental there, Airbnb it or rent it out, and then we have a spot to go vacation at. But we haven't really talked about it, but I don't foresee us scaling an Airbnb business.
No, for sure. I love that. Yeah, I get cold sweats when I hear the noise go off from the text. So yeah, I don't. That's what happens when you have 27 in 7 states. Yeah, it was long. It sucked. So guys, if people want to find out more about what you're doing and follow your journey, how would they do that? Because I'm sure you're going to have an ABC TV show soon. I know it. So
that's everyone's goal. We're on Instagram at Nash_flip.
I love it. Well, guys, if you like this episode, make sure you send it out to your friends. We really appreciate y'all for listening. Leave us a review, send it to your friends, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to Construct Your Life with Austin Linney. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and pay it forward by sharing with a friend. Most importantly, take this opportunity to start constructing your life by taking immediate action on what you learned. For show notes, resources, and more information on one-on-one coaching with Austin, visit constructyourlifepodcast.com.